Hi, I'm Rehana Farrell. I'm the Executive Director of Youth Inc.
Awesome. Thank you. And I know that's obviously a big part of you and your professional work, but I'd love to dig a bit deeper into what are some other layers of your identity that you think of are most important to you?
I always find the question of identity so fascinating and a little bit funny because my team once asked me how I identified, and my answer was tired working mom. And so I do think there's a lot of truth to that, in that I think of myself as a woman and a business leader and a change maker. So someone who is working to make change and make the world better.
Yeah. And, you know, I have gotten to know you so well and this just like passion you have for helping others and finding more effective ways to do so. You've had a long career that wasn't always in the nonprofit space. Like where did that love story with impact and helping others and making a difference start for you?
I would say my love story with impact started when I was a child, actually. And I was thinking about this a lot recently. And I told a woman who was like the big boss at Prudential, where I worked after undergrad, before business school, and after business school, that I wanted to run a nonprofit in my 20s. And so when I got to my 40s, and so there I was in my 40s running a nonprofit. And so I still have to call up her, that mentor, and tell her that we had this conversation, which I'm sure she'll remember. And so she at the time had said to me, nonprofits are really slow. So just given how you're wired, it might not be the best fit. You might want to consider that. So that was one of her preconceived notions. But really, I do think it was the fact that my parents, when I was young, were very involved in driving social change, and it just became part of the fabric of who I am.
No, I love that. And you just mentioned time spent in both the for-profit and nonprofit worlds. And what are some of the biggest misconceptions and maybe even stuff you faced personally when you were making that career change about the nonprofit space?
It's really funny that you ask, because everyone always asks me, what do I miss about the corporate sector? And the answer is not a lot, in part because YouThink's model is largely oriented around the corporate sector. So I still have so much connection to that world. And so many of the amazing board members and supporters of YouThink are from the corporate sector, particularly financial services, where I spent 22 years. But I do think, like I mentioned, this mentor in my 20s, people think that the nonprofit sector is really slow. And I do think that people in the for profit sector think that they have a talent bias, right? That all of the most talented people are driven toward capitalism and the corporate sector. And so I would say, in my experience at YouThink, we are anything but slow. In fact, my employee survey tells me all the time that we have too much to do and we move too fast. And I would say that the talent level of the people at YouThink is unparalleled. And we see people who are driven, I would say, by a different set of values coming into this work, but they're no less talented. So it's really just a difference of what drives them and the change that they want to see in the world and how actively they want to be in driving that personally.
Yeah, and I also think that's probably part of it is just how to make your team more values driven and feel like their values are seen in the work. What are some other nonprofit lessons that you have learned and in your time leading you think that you wish more businesses would adopt or prioritize?
So we have gone through our own equity journey at YouThink and have really focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging over the last 2 years. And that work has been eye-opening for me as someone who's always felt like I belonged. It took me a really long time to understand what belonging looked like, because I haven't experienced the absence of belonging. And so now that I understand that at a deeper level, I think that's a game changer, and one place where nonprofits are way out in front of the corporate sector in prioritizing people. So we call what normally you would call in a corporate context HR, we call people and culture. We try to have people at the center of all of our decision making and really take a human-centered design approach to all that we do in terms of staff policies, policies with our nonprofit partners. And I think that's a place where the corporate sector could really benefit from thinking about employees. And I think the ESG movement will help get corporates there to where nonprofits already are in terms of valuing people and understanding that that level of engagement will really make a difference ultimately in whatever mission it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, love that. And I've always felt that. I mean, it's, you and I met almost exactly 2 years ago, like to the
To the
date,
day.
which is really crazy. But you have, were my earliest advisor long before Pond was a name or anything that we considered.
It's true.
When really just a vision for how we could improve the nonprofit sector. But now that we're kind of formalizing our advisory board, I'd love to just hear from you, like, why Pond? You've got so much on your plate and so many things that you could be doing. What's drawn you to work with this company, and especially joining the advisory board?
Pond is amazing, full stop. It is what the nonprofit sector needs to understand that technology is a strategic asset and active choice that everyone should be making. And so you are democratizing access to technology as an asset for the entire sector. And it is so badly needed. And that's why I clear my calendar to make sure that there's time for Pond, because I think it's doing great things for nonprofits today and well into the future.
Awesome. Well, we are incredibly lucky to have you on board, Rehana, and I know me personally, you've meant so much to have your constant support and advice along the way. So it's just the beginning. We've got a lot more work to do. So I'm really excited to have you by my side.
We absolutely do. And I have no doubt that we will get there through the steel will and determination that you have for making the sector better. I love your origin story of what gave you the idea to start Pond. And I think it's just a microcosm of the larger issue. And
Yeah.
it will serve as our North Star throughout our work together. And I know it'll be successful.